Okay, so this has been requested for quite a while now. So I'm going to go ahead and make a video about how to use Google Voice to text and call your students' parents and or relatives to get in touch with them. I recommend texting just because, at least with my population of students, I've had a much better success rate getting through on a text message and actually getting a reply or having the student then log on and do some work. Um, but your experience might vary where calling might get more success. But with my particular population of students, the texting seems to work a little bit better. Um, so anyway, the very first thing you're going to need to do is go to voice.google.com. I'm highlighting it there for you. You don't need to type in all that other stuff. It'll automatically redirect you to that. You'll be loaded on a site like this. You'll want to click for personal use. And then for the purposes of us setting it up here on the computer, we're going to say web. And then if you are logged into your browser, it should already say your username or account right here, but you can click to verify which username or account you're using, and it should display there. If you are not in the correct user or Google account that you want to use, you can always create a new one. If you don't want to mix it with your personal Google or Gmail account, I would almost recommend that. I have a separate one for my school-related work and school-related phone number that I use with my students. Um, Depending on the version of browser you're using, you may or may not get this wanting to show you notifications. I prefer to block it because I also have the app installed on my phone. So I get all notifications there, and then I'll log onto the computer and respond if I choose to. But you'll have that option. So once we're here, once you're logged into the correct Google account that you want to set it up with, you'll have an option to choose a Google Voice number. And you can search by either area code or city. I would recommend typing in the city that your school is in. Mine is in Bradenton. And then it gives me several phone numbers that are using that Bradenton prefix and area code. So, you can look for one that's maybe a little easier to remember or has some kind of rhythm to it. You can show more a few times, and it'll give you, I think, up to 10 or 12 numbers. So if you don't like any of those, you could always close out of it and search again. But what you'll do is you'll find a number that you like. Um, let's see, that one with the double zeros at the beginning and end looks fun. So I'll pick that one. So I pick that number. It's claiming that number. Then I'm going to have to verify. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and do this simply because I already have too many Google Voice numbers. But you would type in your real cell phone number here, and then that real cell phone number would get a text message with a 6-digit code. And then you'll have to enter that 6-digit code right in here. So I'm going to skip over this part and just kind of jump to showing you what it'll look like. Okay, so once you get done with the verification process, you'll look at a screen that's very similar to this. You'll see some suggested contacts over here where I have it blurred. You'll see a dial pad where you could make a phone call. You can either enter a name or number over here to call. You can also, under the Messages tab, which is what I'm in now, you would just click that and you would come to the Messages tab. You can start a new text message, and you can just type in whatever the name of the student that you've entered into your contacts is, select that name from the list, and you'll simply type whatever your message is. So you'll type that message, and then you'll hit send, and then that message will then go off to that person. It'll show up here in your list of messages, and then you can continue doing that with all your students. My suggestion would obviously be to make some kind of very gender neutral and neutral to whether you're texting a grandparent, a parent, or someone else like foster parent or something like that. What I've always done is I've said your KMS student for King Middle School, which is where I teach. That way you're not identifying any of those specific pronouns that would show that. Then you can just simply copy and paste that to every single student that was missing work or you needed to reach out to or anything like that. You could also, when you send that message, you could send it to multiple people at the same time up there, creating a group chat, which I would not advise doing for the purposes of what you're doing here, because then every time somebody responded, it would then send that response to every other student as well. So I would definitely not recommend doing that. Then the next question is always, well, how do I get all my students' contact information in there? Well, you can do that all pretty easily in the computer if you don't prefer entering it through your phone, because you can also log into your phone with that Google account, especially if you have an Android. I'm pretty sure you could do it on an iPhone as well, but I know you can on Android fairly simply log into an additional Gmail account and then start entering the contacts that way if you prefer. However, the great thing about Google Accounts is it does allow you to have an online interface for that as well. And it's available at contacts.google.com, which I've highlighted up here in the address bar. Then you can simply say create new contact. And you can even give it a label like first period students or students from the year 19 to 20. And then you'll just give a first name. Hey, this is Bob Smith, and the phone number is, the typical 555-123-456-7 is their number, and we'll call that whatever. We don't even have to put a label. So what I recommend doing when I'm entering students' names, even though I know I'm texting the parent, my recommendation is always, as the contact, I put the student's name, because when I'm looking in the grade book or in Schoology or whatever your LMS is, where you're looking for information of students who haven't completed work, you're generally looking by the student name, not the parent name. And I'm sure you're well aware that it's not always the same last name as the parent and the student. So my advice is always enter the contact as if it were the student, but put in the number, obviously, of the parent, because that's who you're contacting. And then if you wanted to, in the notes, you could be like, whatever the parent's name is, maybe it's James. So you put, James is the dad. You could put that in the notes, then you'll save it. Then you'll have that as a contact that'll pop up when you type in your contacts to send a message or phone call to. And then you would just continue to do that for all of your students. The great thing is, if you do put a label on these, which you can go ahead and go back in and edit and put like 1920 school year. The great thing that if you do that is at the end of the school year, you can just go down to that label and delete the entire label and delete all those contacts, so that in this account, you don't have, 4 or 5 years later, you have thousands upon thousands of contacts in here, and maybe you have multiples of the same name. So that would be very hard to keep track of. Whereas if you enter them all as either the school year or the period, and then go back and delete them at the end of each school year, that would probably be the best way to do it. And you would delete all contacts and delete the label, and then that'll delete only those people from your contacts. And then see, it went away. As would any other that were under that label, they would all disappear. And for now, I think that's pretty much all that you'll need to know on how to set up Google Voice on the web browser, as well as inputting contacts via Google Contacts. Thanks. Also remember to like and subscribe, and if you have any other teacher technology related questions or suggestions, please feel free to comment below, and I'd be happy to help you out with that.